Oh, that's you?
Oh yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Host duties, production, maybe even throw something in the chat. Who knows?
What is that, Tom, over your right shoulder? It looks like is that a walrus tusk thing or something?
Walrus tusk. This guy?
That's the
No,
lamp.
come toward the computer a little bit. I just see two white things.
This here.
Yeah, what is that?
That is just the light reflection. That is a growler, actually, from one of our partners at SnapDocs. I want to say it was from their event back in San Diego when we were there for NBA Annual back in 21. I gotta, support the brands of my partner network for some free advertising.
There you go.
But should I have gotten a bigger TMC logo put on here? I don't think it's pronounced enough.
Is your lamp stay on there the entire year, or is it seasonal?
In other parts of the country it'd be seasonal, but here in Ohio you pay homage to the Christmas Story house, which is about 20 minutes from me, so it stays up year round.
Odd times. Well, shall we kick it off,
Right?
Tom?
Why not? Well, on that note, welcome everybody in. Happy Friday. Latest edition of The Rundown. I'm Tom Glucci with the Mortgage Collaborative. As always, joined by our esteemed co-host, Rob Chrisman. And special guest today, we've got Robbie Chrisman in the house. Robbie, where are you at today?
Literally in the house.
Literally in the house. All right.
Yeah, in the house. That's where I am.
And then also joining us, Vice President of Secondary Marketing with a long time, actually one of the original TMC lender members, U.S. Mortgage Corporation, hopefully recovered from our conference this week in San Diego, Ira Selwin. What's going on, Ira?
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So speaking of that, Tom, how do the inner ranks of TMC feel that the event went?
Yeah, great question to kick off with. I mean, we thought conference was fantastic. Level of collaboration is always strong there. I think when you create an agenda that's dictated by your members, it's always going to be timely and well received. And, this one was a little more intimate, pretty much like every industry event has been so far this year. So honestly, some of our
Intimate?
Intimate. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Intimate. That's like saying, like a geriatric millennial, some kind of politically incorrect phrase. Intimate?
I might go by that, but a geriatric millennial, that might be a pretty good description of me these days, honestly.
My goal is to work that into my commentary's opening paragraph next week on just in honor.
Please do.
All right.
I'm honored. But no, I mean, like a lot of our longer term members felt that because in more recent conferences, as the co-op has grown, a lot of new faces in the mix. And, I think because of the intimacy of the event, even stronger conversations and a lot more engagement within the sessions and just really well received. A lot of strong energy coming out of the conference and really just enjoyed the insights and so much, just appreciative feedback from the membership. And my goodness, I'd be resolved if I didn't mention just how awesome our team is here at TMC. It went off without a hitch, and it's really due to all their efforts in the lead up to this. So that was a great event. Rob, you were there. You're all over the country this week. And actually, before I ask you your reflections of the conference, why don't you tell us where you're at today?
I'm back in Marin County after having left Palm Springs this morning around 5:40 a.m. Watching went up there to meet some friends and watch some tennis and play some tennis. But back in Northern California, there's a break in the rain, but we're getting whacked, mollywomped with rain and snow out here out in these parts.
What was your takeaway from watching pro tennis? The biggest difference between amateur game and the pro game?
Consistency. Consistency.
I can consistently hit it into the net and hit it out of bounds.
The service speed a little quicker.
Robbie, I mean, you play tennis. What do you think is the biggest
Well,
difference?
I had heard that the speed of their serves and the speed of their baseline hits was what really jumped out. I'm wondering if you could corroborate that.
So the serves, because they have a clock on them, range for the men 135 to 140 miles an hour. First serves. It was crazy. And to be able to return that serve and then volley, I think is amazing. But once they start volleying, it's very consistent. And coincidentally, I actually thought when you talk about consistency, the fact that the commentary goes out 6 days a week, rain or shine, is very consistent. I think that says a lot that they are able to hit it as hard as they can consistently in. I mean, you or I could whack at the ball and have it go wherever, but hour after hour. I think Murray's match yesterday was over 3 hours to put in that kind of concentration and that kind of physical pounding. That's really tough. But yeah, some of their athletic shots are really cool, but just to be able to do that shot after shot after shot, and when they miss shots, oftentimes it's only by a few inches. So there you go. Ira, where
Yeah,
are
I mean,
you?
watch.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
well, I'll comment on the tennis first. So anyone that has never been to a live tennis event, you'd be surprised at how enjoyable it is. The power and the speed is the most fascinating thing to me. In New York, we
Same
have
with putting out my commentary.
of course, that power and speed every time at 9 a.m. US Open in New York is a great event. You could just walk the grounds all day and watch some amateur matches as well as the pro matches. It's just fascinating. But as far as the event this weekend, it was a little more intimate, but I think that brought out some extra collaboration. At least, as a lender member, that's the way I felt. Everyone, again, extremely open to sharing ideas, sharing their thoughts. The tone of the conference I felt was, we're in this environment, everyone's dealing with the same, environment. So let's just focus on getting the most out of what we have, whether it be technology advances, procedurally, cutting costs, but regardless of everything that's going on, just focus on getting it leaner and meaner and really improving processes. And I thought that was the biggest takeaway from my side as a lender member.
Ira, I got to ask, a lot of folks who are in the mortgage business, they can afford an entire headset with two sides.
Yes.
You're using one.
Mhm.
What's the why?
Well, I figure on the side, I work as a phone operator, so in case everyone dials 0, I have to direct some calls. And yeah, I have to actually like pull the plug and plug it into, that's even before my time, sorry.
And
This
B,
is actually from my wife's old office, so I actually didn't pay anything for it. So I just took what I could get.
Well, good to have a side
what I
hustle
get.
lined up, Ira, too.
Yeah, I agree. With regard to the collaboration and so forth, once again, I'm not a lender member or a vendor member, but just kind of out there like Switzerland. And I think the camaraderie and the conversation very, very important, because as the industry condenses and as some companies buy other companies, or as banks get shut down or whatever, the overcapacity will sort itself out at some point. But a lot of companies are out there just trying to grind it out day after day, and loan officers, you know, make so many phone calls and get so many leads, and then so many of those close, and so many, yada yada yada. It's a numbers game, but the cooperation in general, I think, is continues to be very good with the TMC events.
Yeah, and speaking of the content, I mean, the live rundown on Tuesday obviously, the elephant in the room everybody wanted to know about was how good was the movie Cocaine Bear, and appreciate you and Tracy King at Partners Credit really giving us a deep dive. I think Ira had a burning question for Robbie out there related to that as we came in today, so I'll let you ask it of him.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be the question on everyone's mind at the events, and people were coming up to me saying, I heard you're going to be on the show on Friday, so we want someone else's opinion. And so, Robbie, have you seen Cocaine Bear?
The short answer is no. The longer answer would be I couldn't think of a worse use of my time. Is it one of the Oscar Award nominees for this weekend? Sunday we'll find out if Cocaine Bear sweeps the Oscars. Yeah.
It could be. I haven't checked the lineup.
Well, sorry, I should ask you. Would you enjoy it? Would you recommend it to people?
I personally have not
honestly,
seen
my
it.
parents
what are you
have
talking
seen
about?
it. Yeah.
I will.
And they
I
loved
won't
it.
see- Oh, who loved it?
My parents are in their 60s and 70s and went out and saw it, and they thought it was an action thriller the entire time. So take that for what you will, folks.
Oh boy, better show him
Well-
a Terminator movie, action
Right.
thriller.
Well, on
Jeez.
that note, why don't we get into it? We spent 10 minutes talking about the TMC conference and Cocaine Bear. There was some news that took place this week. So, Rob, the guys, Ira, Robbie, we've got some great secondary cap markets heads with us today. What's your guys' take on kind of the economic update, latest unemployment numbers and the rate environment? Because we never talk about that on the show. So
I want to put Ira on the spot, being a seasoned capital markets veteran. Ira,
Sure. So, everyone
what?
was
No,
looking.
no. Let me ask the question first, Ira.
Uh-oh.
I know you think you know what I'm going to ask, but give me a second here. So, throughout my career, "Don't fight the Fed" is a common phrase. Don't fight the Fed. Jerome Powell comes out and testifies that rates could go higher, talking about a 50%. Like there we have the chairman of the Federal Reserve actually throwing a number out there, and the market reacts. And then suddenly, the end of this week, well, you know what? We don't think Jerome Powell, we don't agree. And the bond market downshifts, rates drop. It's crazy. So tell the folks at home give them some inside baseball here in terms of what's going on and why that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different opinions. Just to back up a little bit. So overnight, there was a late bond market rally due to the Silicon Valley Bank news. And in case anyone hasn't heard, Silicon Valley Bank, which I think it's one of the second biggest bank failure, officially failed today and is being taken over. And we saw a bond market rally last night over that news. So, prior to that news even coming to the wires, people were sort of looking to the unemployment numbers and the payroll numbers this morning. So unemployment crept up a little bit. Employment numbers, the payroll numbers came in stronger than expected. So when we had that positive bond market reaction after, that improved payroll number, where on the normal day you may have seen the bond market sell off a little bit, it's really based on that Silicon Valley Bank failure. And there's a little bit of hesitation on, the flight safety and things of that nature. But with all that being said, after all's said and done, the focus is really on the CPI number next week. And I think that's going to be the one that's going to give us further guidance on 25 basis point hike, a 50 basis point hike. But it's interesting to see the percentage, the odds percentage shift from 50 basis points to 25 basis points almost overnight. And that's
despite what Jerome Powell said.
Despite what Jerome Powell said. And I think that bank failure had a lot to do with that as well.
Robbie, what do you think?
I'm almost laughing at the irony of, it seems like the markets and the Fed have been playing this game of chicken for a while. The Fed was going, take us seriously, take us seriously. And markets' inability to listen to the Fed has almost been a self-fulfilling prophecy for the Fed to say, well, you know what? We have to go above and beyond now so that you do take us seriously. Unfortunately, there's a lot of volatility out there, and until the Fed makes a decision on the 22nd of 25 or 50, and then possibly provides some more clarity on what the terminal Fed funds rate will be, look for that volatility to persist. It's a tough time out there, I know.
It's a very tough time if you are a capital markets person trying to hedge a pipeline. And on the one hand, we started off the year, rates were coming down. Everybody was saying, oh, they were breathing a sigh of relief. The worst is behind us. And, unicorns and rainbows and gnomes prancing around in gardens. And then we hit a speed bump, rates go up, and suddenly people who had stopped looking for buyers of their company started looking for buyers of their companies again, saying, oh gosh, it's not going to be a great summer. And then we get this volatility. And like I said, capital markets folks, they like steady markets, or they like they're okay with gradually increasing rate environments or gradually decreasing rate environments. It's when you get this volatility, and loan officers and account executives are calling for, a few days ago, they were probably calling for, rate lock extensions, and now they're probably calling for renegotiations. And it's a very difficult environment to hedge in. It drives up hedge costs and drives down profits of anybody in residential lending, given this rate environment. So it's tough. I think that the Fed, what I find amusing, and then Tom, I'll turn it back to you, but what I find amusing is when people always say, sorry, Ira, I'm not going to kick you in the shin here too much, but there's always going to be a data point in the future, whether it's CPI or PPI or, and as the data comes out, and suddenly somebody on Bloomberg or CNBC will grab headlines by saying, oh, the Fed is data dependent. The Fed is waiting for more data. Well, the Fed is always waiting for more data. The Fed is always incorporating new data into their decision making. And should things change, I think the Federal Reserve and the FOMC is nimble enough to react to it. So it's too bad that it's almost as if we've moved away. I mean, we put so much reliance on the Federal Reserve to determine where interest rates are going to go. It's kind of, I don't know, puts a lot of pressure on them that maybe shouldn't be there. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox for a minute. And Tom, come back to you.
No, I just interject there. At the same time, what tools do they really have available right now? And
not
it's
to,
really
to
their
raise
only
rates. Yeah, pretty much they're doing it, right? Or they could start selling their securities and drive down prices, drive up rates. But this is pretty much what they've got up their sleeve.
Well, you're watching the rundown here. Happy Friday. We've got Rob Christman as always, Robbie Christman in the house, and Ira Selwin with U.S. Mortgage Corporation joining us today. And Robbie, a burning question out there just blowing up in the chat is, in spite of maybe a need of a window washing, is that really your background, or is that a picturesque silhouette?
Yeah, this is what I'm looking at here. Look at this. Look at this. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, beautiful space to be. Nothing better than this. What more could you want? There you go.
Well, there you go.
Next time you join us, you have to show the other side of that so we can see the progression of your house coming together here.
There you go.
So Robbie, your finger's on the pulse of something near and dear to a lot of people on this call, and that is, if you are remodeling or having work done on your house, is there a labor shortage? Are prices going up? What's going on out there in terms of that area?
Well, certainly prices are going up or have gone up, but I would say in terms of a labor shortage, I think contractors out there, laborers out there are seeing a shift from, hey, we have a ton of work, we're booked out for a long time, to people are scared about an incoming recession potentially. Projects are slowing down, and so we're seeing some of these contractors free up in terms of what their future looks like. It's a good bellwether for the economy, in my opinion.
There was an interesting anecdote from Jerry Howard at the conference, who did mention that he saw a lot of VC venture capital money going into renovation companies, which I did find interesting. I guess with the lack of inventory, that's really the only choice at this point, with the lack of new builds.
Yeah, without question. And also among the highlights this week, we got the Black Knight Ice acquisition update. In real time, had a chance to allow Sean Dugan from Black Knight speak on that on the front end of Tuesday's rundown at the conference. But assuming there's at least some of you in the audience that weren't there to join us, so basically the high level of the update, Constellation Mortgage Solutions, would come in to acquire the Empower LOS suite, as well as some of Black Knight's proprietary origination technology, like their AVA artificial intelligence, exchange platform, and others. And then you would have some of their acquired assets go over to ICE, for example, Optimal Blue, Top of Mind Surefire, and others. And that's all, pending that the FTC does approve such a deal. And as expected, the FTC turned right around within 24 hours and went and sued to block the acquisition with a unanimous 4-0 vote on the complaints. And so now we wait. And gentlemen, welcome any conjecture here as to what, should the deal go through, it means for our industry, and then, any straw polling out there as to whether you think it will.
I'm going to turn this over to Ira. It's way above my pay grade to figure out legal maneuvers like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised you think this is in my wheelhouse, but it is interesting. Like you said, it was expected that this was going to happen, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this shakes out. As we use some of Black Knight's products. I don't know how other users may feel about the merger, about possible the software being sold off. And if you're a user of that software, I don't know how you would feel. You're sort of in the middle as a bargaining chip. But I see both sides of it. There's some pros, there's some cons. I just don't personally. I see too much against this acquisition, and I can't envision a way this gets approved unless I'm going crazy, which is possible.
No. Well,
Lawyer
I won't
up.
judge on that, but that was kind of the common anecdotal conjecture in San Diego as that announcement came out over the day, and somebody who's heavily ingrained in kind of the third party space and supporting our 70 plus best in class partners here at TMC. I mean, two things I think that come out of it, should it go through, is you could largely expect a lot more consolidation to take place in the third party community, especially on the tech side of things, as some may have their hand out to ICE looking to get gobbled up, and others may look to align together to create a suite of solutions to combat that. And I think potentially further down the line, it creates opportunity in the space for new innovation and for new players to arise, anywhere along the origination process. And it's kind of the cyclical nature of things.
I
Rob?
can't quite see because of the sun, but it looked like Dottie had a comment that might shed some light on this or might be informative. Can you maybe
I
read
would
that?
be more than happy. And thank you, Dottie, for the comment. So FYI, Constellation already owns Emphasis, a system used by many housing agencies. My hope is that if the marriage occurs, we will have an effective LOS system for HFA loans.
See, that shows how much I know. I wouldn't think that HFA loans operate or have a different system, but what do I
Yeah.
know?
And Tom Lamalfa also in the chat mentioned, just due to some of the surveying he does of industry leaders periodically throughout the year, that the deal wasn't favored through the folks he polled at the NBA convention last fall.
Were not in favor.
Correct. We're not.
Is that what Tom
not
said?
in- That's correct.
Yeah.
And keep
Yeah,
in
I
mind,
think-
Constellation is also the owner of Mortgage Builder too. So there is already an LOS under that umbrella. So, you know, a whole another layer of interesting happenings at play should this deal proceed through to closing.
What, taking a step back for a minute, it highlights the fact that we as an industry, basically everyone's out there just trying to help borrowers. We're just trying to help borrowers either refinance if they need some cash out at this point or buy a home. And there's all these things swirling around, whether it's the cost of credit, going up, or, legal things going on, or, deals that are being put together or not being put together, or pieces spun off. I mean, there are all these things that are going around that, and I realize that they always go on, but the industry is not having a great time right now. In fact, it's arguably very, very tough time. There's still overcapacity out there, and a lot of companies and originators are just trying to help borrowers. Yet we have to worry about all this. Noise is too crass of a term, but stuff that's going on that may not directly help loan officers help borrowers. Maybe it will. Maybe I'm getting old and jaded, but it seems like, a lot of originators that I talk to, they just want to do their jobs, and they want the software to be able to help their borrowers and get on with their lives. So I don't know. Robbie, I've got a question for you.
You know all my thoughts on this? Is it on the same subject?
No, but do you have thoughts on this?
Yeah. I remember thinking at the time that this deal was announced at 11 or 12 billion dollars, messaging with you and some other capital markets folks and going, you're telling me Black Knight is valued at 3 times what Forbes values the New York Yankees at? These sports franchises that are multinational corporations, $4 billion. Black Knight's worth 3 times that. I'm almost thinking if I'm ICE and this gets shut down, look at how asset values in the mortgage industry or the value of companies have dropped since that was announced. It'd be nice if there was a little backdoor for them to get out. And my exact pay grade probably says there's a conflict of interest and I shouldn't comment on this deal. But if I'm ICE, I'm thinking, God, it'd be nice to pay a lot less for Black Knight based on what's transpired over the last year.
Yeah, and Robbie, to that point, I mean, you saw in the updated press release that the acquisition amount was brought down from, I mean, not, probably in retrospect to what the market has done to tech valuations over the last 6 months, but down from 13.1 to 11.7 billion. So, already kind of seeing a little bit of that taking place.
What was the question you were going to ask me?
Well, sorry, Tom, I got to say, so Robbie works for MCT. I know MCT is not a vendor partner of let's see, how many acronyms can I get in here? MCT is not a partner with TMC, but in fact, TMC, CMT, anyway. But Robbie, I mean, you work for a vendor out there. What is I know what the mood is like on the origination side. Things are somewhat grim. They're not catastrophic, but people are buckling down and it's grinding it out. What's it like on the vendor side of things? What's MCT up to in terms of things?
You broke up a little bit there, but I would say that I'm happy to have a job, and I think my colleagues are also happy to still have jobs. I got a note this morning from the CMO or former CMO of a podcast sponsor of mine saying we just laid off the entire marketing division. The entire marketing division got laid off today, and we announced cuts for 20% of our company. It's really rough. So like I said, I'm happy to have a job. There is some chatter out there that the first quarter of this year could be the low point in terms of originations as the traditional spring and summer home buying season picks things back up. But I think it's all about weathering the storm, both for originators and vendors out there. And I mean, you would have thought that that there was enough time to figure out how you wanted to scale your costs. You knew this was coming, but it's still as good as if you think about a market cycle, as good as 2020 and 2021 were, you could argue they were the best years ever. There's a flip side of that cycle, which would then mean these could potentially be the worst years ever. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but that is a realistic chance.
Robbie, thanks for that doom and
Yeah,
gloom
we certainly
scenario.
get-
You're all watching the rundown today with Robbie Chrisman. Much better hairline than Rob Chrisman and
but,
Ira
yeah.
Selwin, U.S. Mortgage Card. Go ahead, Rob.
I use, I was thinking about what conditioner I used this morning, but the industry basically did 5 years worth of refis in 2 years, right? And so we as an industry crammed a lot of business into those 2 years, and now we're paying the price to some extent. So I think everybody who was involved in the industry during those years realized, wow, this is incredible. We're not going to see this again. And getting back to how this bank failure has helped the bond market, my first boss would always say, bad news helps us. Bad news helps us. Bad news drives rates down. And people would ask me, gee, what are rates going to go back into the 2s or 3s or 4s? And I say, well, what kind of bad news do you want to get us back down there? Do you want
And enough bad news to send Rob packing for the hills. So we'll carry on here. Some great comments in the chat here. Nice plug of one of our partners with Meridian Link is a loan origination software alternative. And right on cue, Rob back, and then a different pain in my view. I don't know about you guys, Ira and Robbie, but good to see you go from top left to bottom right. And you're on mute, my friend.
some would say that's the best thing for me. What I'm saying is, bad news. We don't want a lot of bad news to drive rates back down. And in fact, the economy continues to chug along. Anybody who's hoping for, rates back in the 3s to help their career, I think they're going to be sorely disappointed, because they have to ask themselves, what's it going to take to get rates back in the 3s? A recession, a depression, another pandemic. We're just not there. So,
well, and I'd argue too, is rates back into 3s really healthy for this industry for the long haul?
Ooh, care to elaborate?
I was gonna that was my tee up for you, but I mean, it leaves such little margin behind. Say, if you do have a circumstance where, like we talked about earlier in the discussion, the Fed is kind of at a point with limited tools in the arsenal. And you get back down to that zero benchmark. I think a lot of more seasoned originators out there on the call would be, hey, kids, figure out how to get it done. We had to, originate loans in the 10s and teens 20, 30 years ago. Start, using the phone, start leveraging your real estate referral partners and pounding the pavement for business like it was done until the last 5 years, where, all you needed was a headset like Ira's got, and the refis would show up at your door.
So Ira, not to pry too much, but does U.S. Mortgage have servicing?
We do. We have a small servicing book. Thankfully, we had our Fannie and Freddie approval in 2020, because that saved us from it saved quite a bit of money in 2020. Especially in March, April, May, when the aggregators and investors were really not paying for loans. It was nice to have that servicing book available. And now, looking back, you would think, oh, it's nice to have the servicing book to look at refi opportunities, but now it's a true income stream. Not only us. You look at the headlines of some of these huge companies, the Loan Depots, the UWMs. That servicing book may have saved them from huge losses. They're already incurring losses, but without that servicing book, that would have been an even bigger number.
Yeah, the servicing income saved a lot of bacon, and when you start cutting into the meat of a company and in order to keep cash flow up or add money to the books, and you start selling off the servicing, at some point, you don't have the servicing to sell anymore. And I don't know if we're quite there, but I continue to see flows of servicing packages cross my desk, cross my email desk. And, I realize there's a reason to sell servicing. Maybe you want to adjust your footprint. Maybe you need the money. Maybe you just don't want to deal with servicing anymore. But it is a good income stream, and it did save a lot of companies. And I see a chat there, something I couldn't quite read it, but it looked pertinent. Tom, what was just relayed in?
But we seem to be seeing mortgage zombie economics right now, and companies earning just enough to survive.
Yeah. Well, on that note,
But I mean, you joked to it just in that commentary right there. I mean, we saw Loan Depot post revenue down 38% in the fourth quarter. Ira mentioned UWM, their numbers down considerably. I guess that leads me to ask Robbie. I'll throw it to you, who being a sports aficionado. How long is it until your dad's boy Matt Ishbia comes out from the ownership box and gets on the sidelines and starts coaching the Suns?
I think Matt Ishbia is going to earn enough from the new NBA TV deal that's about to renew here to offset any losses in the wholesale channel. That's my 2 cents on it. Ira?
Very
Yeah, no.
diplomatic, my friend.
I mean, their quarter four was 54% of the wholesale market share. That's a hefty number. So even with those losses, they're not, everyone has experienced losses. So they're not, immune to those, but they still are the big player in that space right now.
yeah, I wouldn't, as I've said before, Tom, I wouldn't bet against Matt. I wouldn't bet against Dan Gilbert. I wouldn't bet against someone like Steve Jacobson. The industry is filled with some really savvy, smart, pro survival CEOs and owners, and they're smart and they're crafty, and they're going to do what it takes to survive. But that said, I think I would not be surprised if we can talk about this next Friday, but I would not be surprised if we hear about a big M&A next week or two. I think we'll continue to see those throughout 2023.
At a intentional teaser to the audience to keep an eye out on the commentary this coming week?
Maybe.
You're referencing the biggest players in the channel, and that's probably not the concern for a lot of our audience here. They're concerned about these independent mortgage banks that UWM was trying to cannibalize before any of this volume decline even started. And so it's almost a hang on, and the companies that are able to make it to the smallest bit of daylight are going to come out the other side stronger, weather the storm. What are you hearing from people at the smaller IMBs about what's going on, especially if they don't have a servicing portfolio?
Is that for me or
Ira?
for Rob? Yeah, for me, I mean, we're seeing still hearing a lot of, there's a ton of local M&A that doesn't make the news headlines. And, recently the big one was CMG purchasing retail division of Homebridge, which was announced this week, I think, but we're still seeing a ton of local M&A activity that, I'm not going to hear maybe what happens to a maybe small to mid-sized lender in Arizona. But here in the Northeast, almost weekly, you're hearing of companies that are either selling or merging, or selling off their assets. And you don't hear about it in the public eye because there's so many, but I see it continuing, no different than the big players that are going to make the headlines. There's some people that just want to punch out. There's some people that are lifers, and there's some people that just can't make it, unfortunately. And that's the fallout from that.
Ira, I'll meet you on a beach in Zihuatanejo. Okay. Did you ever see this
Morgan
Shawshank
Freeman and
Redemption?
Tim Robbins.
It's one of
Yep.
my favorite movies, and it drives my wife crazy because every time it's on TV, I put it on TV, and drives her nuts. All she has to do is hear Morgan Freeman's voice, and she's like, "Again?"
I'd like to
Have
tell
you
you Ira fought the good fight.
Ira, have you ever seen the comedic outtakes from the Shawshank Redemption? You got to check that out on YouTube sometime. Uh,
Well,
but actually, here's a little known fact that you may know that that end of the movie beach scene was not filmed in Zihuatanejo. There you go. There's your movie trivia for the day. I agree 100%. I was Googling this right now, like where was end of Shawshank Redemption filmed. Uh, I agree 100% with what I was saying. You don't hear about deals. I had in my commentary today a little deal between a company, I think it was in Illinois, and a company in Texas that, some people may have heard of, others may not. But I think there'll be some bigger deals coming up. And but you're right, the industry is still dealing with overcapacity. And to Robbie's point, or to Robbie's question, I think that these folks who they don't want to go through another goat rodeo. And if you had $10 million a year or two ago, and now you're down to $5 million in the company, and you're an owner, and you're 48 years old or 68 years old, it's like, gee, do I want to just find a suitable acquirer or merge or do something because I want to save my 5 million that I still have.
especially on
So
top of that, some companies don't really have a true succession plan. So, they don't have the plan to make it out after all this, and they just want to cash out.
yeah. Anyway.
This is the doom and gloom edition of the rundown here. Friday. We're heading into
Right.
the end of today's discussion. Actually got some love out of the chat saying, guys, don't end on all negatives here. The quick stat saying 63% of mortgages out there either have a 2 or 3-ish rate. Mortgage refi rally is not going to happen, as most of the other 37% will qualify for a conventional prime rate, credit score rate. So we'll add that to the fun. But yeah, we'll keep it light here to wrap up. Obviously, big news this weekend, daylight savings for, 47, 48 states that still observe it. You're going to lose an hour on Saturday night, which always pained me, as I used to love when daylight savings would end in my younger days. It meant 1 extra hour at the bar before closing time. But no, one of us has a special birthday coming up this weekend and has some particular thoughts about daylight savings.
Yeah, so it is my birthday this weekend. Thank you. And I truly did not know this weekend was daylight savings time. But I'm a little upset because I lose a day of my birthday, which seems unfair. It's not right.
Ira's mom just wrote in, happy birthday, Ira. Robbie's got a birthday coming up on the 19th. So
Icy season. Hey, I wanted to ask, do you think they filmed Cocaine Bear in Zihuatanejo? Is that a thing?
all right, on that note, maybe we should wrap things up.
I mean, we could really end. You were talking about, losses, but one subset that is not experienced lossing is the NFL quarterbacks, for sure. And they are definitely getting paid and not losing money.
Yeah, when Daniel Dimes is getting 40 million a year, guaranteed over 4. Yeah, it's
What?
good to be a middling quarterback right now. Makes me wonder, and I'm gonna ask this of Robbie, just being football guru in the Bay Area. Could that spur this young gentleman to make his way out of retirement one more time?
Yeah, I'm
Who's
glad
that?
I'm glad you went to me, because my dad was about to drop a YA Tittle or Roger Staubach reference. Guaranteed.
Bart Starr. Bart
That's-
Starr, he's coming
Bart
back.
Starr, how could you forget?
Sonny Jurgensen.
Yeah, I think that
Y.A. Tittle. That was a good one.
Tom's time is done, and as much as I would love him to come back as a Raiders fan and take his talents to Las Vegas, I think that the value of your rookie card there is going to appreciate. Is better off doing it this way, where he stays retired. 60 million
That's
a
good to
year
know.
though for someone like Rodgers, or $60 million a year for a franchise quarterback is unreal money. That's Matt Ishbia money.
Well, I'm taking offers on this in the chat, but yeah, I had to throw that out there and an ode to Mr. Swabinsky this week here. So, gentlemen, as we wrap up today, any good weekend plans? Hopefully, Ira, you're doing something fun for your 23-hour birthday on Sunday.
Yeah, I'll be attending a hockey game here, my New Jersey Devils, as it's a tight race to the top as the NHL season starts to approach playoff season. It's going to be interesting.
Wait,
So
isn't a hockey playoff season as long as the regular season?
it is. It seems to go longer and longer and stretches sometimes into the summer. But it's an exciting time in the Eastern Division of the NHL. So looking forward to that.
Robbie, what are you doing this weekend?
Well, I was going to surprise you and Marin tomorrow, but you heard I'm coming and are likely spooked back to the comfortable confines of Reno, Nevada. So much for that plan.
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
heard you
be
guys
playing
have a
some
pickup
basketball
game in
tomorrow
store.
morning.
Yeah,
What's that?
that's what I heard. Maybe Robbie shows up and dominates against
Basketball
the
tomorrow
older
morning.
gentleman.
Maybe. Anyway, on that note,
Well, on that note, thank you as always. Join us on Fridays here. Have a great weekend, everyone, and join us next week for another edition of the Rundown. Ira, Robbie, Rob, as always, thank you guys for joining us, and see you next week.
Thank
all
you so
right,
much. Appreciate
take
it.
care. Bye.